Well, I'm not sure. Are we ready? Michael, you don't need to sit down. You're the star.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. If we're ready, we'll go ahead and get started with our mid-year budget review workshop.
Okay.
So go ahead, sir.
Good evening, everybody. What I just handed out to you is a copy of what you got last time. The only thing that I added to it was I added a column. The mayor and I met this morning to kind of go over some of the stuff, and I did a column that shows the dollar increase and decrease per department and the percentage of increase and decrease per department. So that just gives us a little bit more information. How do y'all want to do this? Do you want to go, y'all have specific questions? Do you want to?
Line by line, page by page.
Why don't you go through
David, I don't see the mayor recognizing you.
the highlight of kind of what we were talking about.
Okay.
Yeah.
From the original budget that we presented in January, of course, numbers come in and out in different ways. So we have switched numbers around. We have pulled things from certain line items that we weren't experiencing, moved them to line items that we had heavier experience on. The overall impact to the budget is, if you look on page 31, the very last page, we had originally said that our total revenue of all of our funds was going to be $14,445,000. And our expenditures were going to be $14,042,000, and so we were going to be operating at a clear of $403,000. With the adjustments that we have made, we have increased our revenue streams, and we have increased our expenditures, but we're still showing a $412,000 increase. So overall, the adjustments that we made to the budget there wasn't a significant impact on the budget. This is my trusty assistant bringing the last copy. We were printing these off on our fast-paced printer, and it burned out the printer. So
we have to upgrade our printed budget.
Exactly. I'm going to need a little more in my budget.
Yeah.
Thank you, Tabitha, the best accountant ever.
So I told her, I said, I've got enough for everybody but Ida. Let Ida just keep printing, and then you can bring it over when it prints off. So, yes, Terry.
So like the 4111, 4113, current revenue.
Where's your microphone?
If you will, yes. If you look at 4110, 4111, and 4113, we're not really projecting any more or any less for the parking lot revenue. We have just realigned it and restreamed it for where it comes in. Some of the parking lot revenue is through the passport, some of it's through actual monies that we get. So what we did is we realigned that money.
Okay.
So there's no real huge increase or decrease. It's just that like in the 4111, we had 85,000, and 4113 we had 25,000. Well, we're seeing more coming in through the category of passports than we are through change. So we just realigned some money there.
That's kind of what I thought was going on. Is there any revenue line that is at a reduction that's a red flag?
No, because our main, of course, we all know our main revenue lines are our operating sales tax, our franchise fee. Some of those, operating sales tax I kept the same because we had projected that pretty flat over last year. So I projected it out. I'm still thinking that's where we're going to come in at.
Mm-hmm.
Some of them, like if you take franchise fee, we increased that by $75,000 just because that's coming in stronger than what we had expected it to. Permits building, if you look at that, we were running 25,000, 30,000 a year consistently. Now that Jacob's there and is staying on that a lot harder than it was before, we're up to almost $50,000 already in permits this year. So we bumped it up to $60,000. So a lot of these are conservative adjustments, and they're based upon kind of what I did was I took our 6 months, what had we done in the first 6 months, and then I kind of adjusted that, and then I had the ability to look at 7 and 8 to see what we're done in July and August. And so we feel really good about these projections that we're going to hit them pretty close.
Michael, what about the permit fees from the clerk's office or license fees and so forth? They've gone up, haven't they?
Yes. If you'll see, that's line item 4081, 4082. Those are the occupation license, the beverage license. Those have all gone up. And it's because our city clerk is doing a great job.
From the persistence of the clerk.
Yes.
Well, tell me, what line item did the $13,000 sniper rifle for the police department come from?
That's going to come out of equipment. It's going to be 0112.
Sniper rifle?
0112 5303.
I don't understand why we even have a sniper rifle with the police department. They bought the most expensive one from these folks over in Berryville.
But it wasn't a $100,000 sniper rifle,
No,
or $30,000.
$13,000. $13,000 sniper rifle. That's enough. And 3 flashlights for $580. Where would those come from?
Where is this?
Oh, I had to get copies.
All
Right
of that's going to come out of your supplies equipment. It may, some of the, it's going to come out, their supplies equipment, their supplies uniforms. It's going to come out of there.
And we buy shoes for them?
We buy boots.
2 pair of shoes for $342?
We also buy the fire department boots.
Well, the fire department boots are a different story. I
We
mean,
buy
these are just
that's
sneakers.
part of the uniforms. It's always been part of that, Harry.
These are just,
Do you
well,
want,
I didn't know
we're
that.
going through a mid-year budget review right now. You're getting into the police department. If that's okay, depends on the rest of the council, if they want to go through this or if they want to hit on the police department only. That seems to be what you're after.
Do you folks want to hear about where our money's going?
$13,000 for a assault rifle in this town, especially after what we've dealt with at this table over the last month, is honestly an outrage. As far as the boots, that is a little concerning because you really can't play favorites. You can't buy boots for 2 people and not buy them for the whole team.
These are just sneakers.
No, these aren't
aren't
shoes
boots.
for everybody.
These are not boots. These are sneakers. I looked them up in the catalog, and it's just no different than my New Balance, except for they might be a certain color or something.
But it makes no difference if there's sneakers or boots or whatever. If it's a part of the uniform, then it has to be for every single person on the department.
And it is. That's why the
Okay.
budget's so high, is because we do buy that for everybody. We buy uniforms for them, pants, shirts. We have them embossed with all of the police stuff on them. We buy the shoes. We buy the holsters. We spent $600 or $700 on holsters. Yeah, we do buy for a lot of them, which is for everybody. I mean, and we do it for the fire department too. The fire department is a little bit more conservative on what they spend, but we do it for both departments.
Is this rifle a situation of upcoming, do they feel that there's a situation, or is this a nationwide suggestion? Where are they getting this information to go, yeah, that's what we want?
I think we need to talk to the police chief. I want to find out why he can justify this. And, you know,
I'm sorry.
$19,093 plus some pet change was spent on stuff for the two new cars that were bought at the beginning of the year. So that makes our new cars, each one, 50 grand. And if we got to buy 2 new cars in the spring and next year for 100 grand, I think we can probably really examine the budget here at the police department, and we can pay our officers a little more money, and then they can drive their own cars to work. Because they've burnt $30,000 worth of gasoline so far this year. It's absurd. There, my rant's done.
I would like to hear from the chief of police if, you know, I mean, I'm just curious at this point. I did have a question about 5600.
Which one?
5600. It's a miscellaneous expense and it doubled. What was the reasoning for that?
On what page?
Page 3
3, okay.
of this new one that you.
Yes.
Okay, okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
What we do is we try really hard to have everything categorized. I don't like miscellaneous expense. I don't like putting things in there. But sometimes you get one-offs, things that are only going to happen one time. And so that's how the miscellaneous expense categories get there. This one, that's where we were at on the miscellaneous expense. This is for the fire, let's see. It's not for the fire department, no. I'd have to go back and just pull the detail out and see what was actually in there.
It says non-departmental.
Yeah, that's basically, that is the overall, like, things for the city. And one of the things that could be in here, I don't know if this is where Tabby's putting them, but it could be the tree cuts that we've done. She may be putting some of that in there because we don't have a line item for those tree cuts. So it could be that, but I can go back and look at that and let you know.
Okay.
So
Speaking of the tree cuts, who's doing the tree cuts?
We get bids on those. And
Okay, a company. Okay, I got you. Okay.
Lucky we could find anybody as busy as they all are.
some things that are new, you will see we added some things were new, like we put a line item 5553 for our new website. So we put that in the budget. So, there are some new things that you will see that maybe it's a zero. Also, if you look at 5250, 5251, and 5252 on page 3, this is a little bit of a recategorization of how legislative audit wanted us to calculate or how to record the payments on the solar lease program. So that's why we started out at zero at the beginning of the year, because this was a recommendation they gave us in like March. So that's the payments that we have on those things. So that's the reason why some of it's zero before, and now you have a budget line item for it.
What is 5308? It just says PD steps, supplies, and equipment.
Okay, so the police department has a program called STEP, and it's an assistance program with the Arkansas Highway Patrol. And so they, if Highway Patrol needs assistance as far as like maybe there's a wreck or something and they send our people out, then Brian can bill them for those hours and they reimburse us for those hours. So you see it in the revenue, you'll see it as there's a step wages and then there's a step equipment. And this zeroes out. So if we need a new radar or something to help assist them, then we can charge that to this PD STEP grant and get reimbursement from the state. So like he's budgeted, I think it's $68,900 or something like that for the PD STEP grant, but it's not typical like a grant for, say, where we get awarded a grant for $100,000 and we're going to get $100,000. This is what he calculates that we may use in or in wages with them, or equipment that we may need to buy in regards to this. And then we put our revenue at how much he thinks it's going to be, and our expense is exactly the same. So anything that he charges to that then gets reimbursed from the state. So even though it says it's like $68,000, it doesn't mean we're going to get $68,000. That's what he's estimating that he may spend and be reimbursed from the state.
Okay, so he's added $20,000 to
The equipment,
a
yes.
a zeroed out account.
Yes.
And,
No, last year we didn't have that in there.
Yeah, last year we just ran it all under PD STEP grant.
I see.
And this year I wanted more clarification of how much of it was actually wages and how much of it was actually equipment. And that's going to be like 0112
5008.
is the wages, and then the equipment is 5308.
Yeah.
If you turn back to page 2, you will see, as it's on page 2. Where am I at?
Page 3, I think.
Page 3, okay. Thank you. Page 3, you'll have 01004510 is PD STEP grant. That's going to be the same amount as those two. So that's your revenue coming back in from the state to cover those expenses that went out.
Mm-hmm. Michael, on page 8, 5005, the $3,000, what was that for?
Okay. The municipal court has a lot of overtime. And in the past, it has only been tracked as a wage. It's not been tracked as how much we paid them regular and how much we paid them in overtime. So I want it busted out so that we have a better idea of actually how much we're paying the girls up in municipal court in overtime. So we just busted that out. That's how much we're anticipating for the end of the year that they may calculate into overtime. Then next year when we come out with their budget, we're going to have their regular salaries and wages, and then we're going to have an overtime category just like we do for all of our other departments. So that's just to kind of get them through the end of the year for what we're consuming. And so that number will be a lot bigger whenever we go to do our 2024 budget.
Doesn't it justify another person?
That's a battle. The girls say that they need another person. County says they don't. And that's one of those situations. We split them half and half with county. We pay half of their expenses, half of their salary, half of their, everything that they do. We pay half of it and county pays half of it. So we really battle the county on what really needs to be up there and what they need. We battled them for 3 months on an air conditioner, getting them an air conditioner up there. So finally we just kind of got to the point to where we just bought the stuff and then build them. So they say they do need another person up there. County says they don't. So.
Who hires them? County?
County, the judge. Yeah.
What does the judge?
And the
say?
same is true for Berryville and Green Forest. Green Forest has one clerk, and I think Berryville has 2 clerks. And then we've also got into the differences in wages between the 5 of them.
Yes, because we tried to give them raises, the county wouldn't give them a raise. So then I did a lot of research on exactly what the Arkansas state law was, and finally we figured it out to where it was basic. They kept saying they had to approve the wages. Well, whenever we went through all of the county law or the state law, it came out that basically we got to set their wages and then just bill them, and they just have to pay it. It's not that they can argue with us. So we went ahead and gave them raises this year.
Very good.
Last year, Connie denied them. So,
Very good.
yeah. I would like to draw y'all's attention to page 10. I told Gary that I want him to give the budget workshops to all the department heads next year because he knows how to do it. He rearranged all of his numbers and only had he actually had a decrease in his budget because he went in and pulled from lines that he wasn't using that he thought he would. And so I want to give him kudos tonight. So he did a good job on his. So he was actually able to reduce his budget. Some other kind of just mentioning things. You will see in page 11, this is for Jacob's budget for the building department. We've made quite a few adjustments there. A lot of that has to do with upgrading the equipment that he had, upgrading the computer that he had, books that we needed to order, and his training. So his overall budget has only gone up about $3,000, but we have tried to realign some things that would help get him the things that he needed. Ida's budget, the city clerk, Madam Clerk, on page 12.
It's actually 13 on ours, I think.
Yeah, Michael, right quick while we're on 11.
Yeah.
Is he going to get a person to assist?
At this point, we do not have it in the budget for him to have an assistant. If it's going to be something for 2024, then we can put that in 2024's budget. But at this point, we do not have anything in his budget.
We're still going through the process of that.
Well, my concern is I've had several people reach out and say that they've asked things of him, specifically list things that could help if there was a potential inspection. What could they make sure that their buildings are up to code and what he's going to be looking for. And some of those things have never been communicated to the public, meaning nobody knows what to do and there's no direction from the city.
Are you talking like your overnight lodging and bed and breakfast?
Yep.
We had that workshop.
But did you make a list
Yeah,
of
we did.
things?
We've got a list. and
Okay.
It's available.
They should know.
Did we?
It's a list available that he has, and I don't know, you don't have that list, do you?
I could probably find a copy.
But we've got a
Okay, yeah,
list
yeah.
of everything
Just-
that's
yeah, you need a
required.
copy.
And it was about a page long.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it
I
was
just want to
pretty
make sure
itemized.
that he's getting the help he needs because I feel like we're, now we've got the tree ordinance going on. He's doing all the building inspections. And the last time he was here, he was already starting to feel the pressure and the burden.
Well, we're hoping with this new computer system that he's got, that's going to help make,
Okay.
once he gets used to it.
Okay.
Berryville does about twice the building inspections that we do with one building inspector. And they've got probably twice as much construction going on,
Okay.
big construction.
Okay.
That is one of the things that I talked to him about when we were building the website and getting the website up and going, exactly how much that would impact him. And he had a lot of input on that website and what we were going to need, because right now everything he pretty much does is paper, is hand paper.
Yeah.
So we're trying to move a lot of that to the website. He's going to have his own modules that are going to be his and his loan that should help him with that. Also, he is working a lot of hours and he is doing a lot of hours, but he's also doing a lot of training too. So once that licensing and that training, and once he gets the licensing behind him and the training that he needs behind him to move forward, then that's going to free up some more of his time. So he is overwhelmed right now. I mean, I talk to him almost daily and he is overwhelmed, but I keep trying to impress to him that, you're trying to get over the hump. You're trying to get over that hurdle.
Okay.
And so that's just some things to think about.
Okay, I understand
When we laughed whenever we did the website, because we were all in different Zooms, and Ida and I were like throwing things at him because he was like, yes, just sign us up. Just sign us up. I don't care what it costs. Just sign us up. We were like, no, we got to get a better deal. So.
Well, thank you.
And if I'm not mistaken, I know that Autumn, in reference to your question, I know we had a recent request for every single tree that has been cut in the city for the past 2 or 3 years with photographs and, yeah,
A FOIA?
I think I know who that was.
yeah. So he's getting a lot of stuff.
Right, well, and I think that's what I'm concerned with, because I don't see this, stopping. He is the one that's putting the rules in order and pushing for the rules to be taken care of. That's not going to come without resistance. And I just think that's a big burden, especially about the history before him. So, I understand that if this is his training period, but I mean, there's things that are going to come up like that all the time. So that's my, I don't want to burn him out before we even get him started.
Right.
We appreciate that.
Another thing that I did want to bring to your attention, 01005728 on page 4. We have up the wages for the cemetery employees. They're wanting to add a part-time person as a sexton.
How many do we have?
We have one full-time and one part-time. I think he's 30-something hours, but I think there's one full-time and then there's one that's 30-something hours. This one, they want 20 hours.
This
pay
is a
period.
sextant that we've always had, but they paid them
Commission,
on
they pay them
commission,
every
I
other
think's what
ways.
they were working on.
Yeah.
Where's that in the budget?
I'm sorry, it's 01005728 on page 4.
Okay.
Cemetery wages. The total increase there is about $7,800, which is what they figured would take to pay a part-time sexton. So
I really support that. They really need help over there.
they've tried a lot of different things. They really have,
The
and they just
commission
can't.
thing and all
They just can't get anybody to stay
That's-
with it on the commissions.
That's not the same as a groundskeeper.
No.
No,
The
Section-
section is the guy that sells the
he's the one
lots
that goes out like a real estate salesman for
Yeah.
your cemetery
and
plots.
keeps track of it.
Yeah, they
Yes.
organize it and sell it, and then they make sure
Right.
everything is where it's supposed to be.
Make
in the
sure you
cemetery.
get planted in the right place.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Right now, people on the board are doing it voluntarily, and it's a lot of work.
Yeah, it is. It is.
Yeah, it'd be good. We wouldn't get another Confederate monument, maybe.
Yeah.
You will see a pretty good size increase in streets, which is Fund 10. It starts on page 15. We had to, in the original budget, we had not put in for the sidewalk that was built because they didn't know when they were going to start or when it was going to be. So we had to put in the expense of the sidewalk, and then we put in the revenue coming back from the state of getting that TAP grant money. We pay for it up front, then they reimburse us. So the reimbursement is on page 14 at 10/00/4503, and the expense part of it is on 10/00/5591. So that's what those bigger numbers are. So we did have quite a increase in our street overall budget revenue and expenditures.
Now, say that again. Now, we're getting the 4503,
That's the money that we will get back from the state.
the 263,725.
Yes, sir.
And our expense then,
The total expense of the project, we have to pay for the total expense of the project, so that's in the 350 number,
Yeah.
10/00/5591.
Right.
It's in that number.
and in regard to that, I asked specifically last meeting and the meeting before that the sidewalk is, as you're looking at it from the street, from where it is in front of the motel, is to continue on around
Plainer Hill.
to Plainer Hill. Immediately, isn't that right? Isn't that,
Terry, I think we cut that out. I'd have to go back and
I
look.
don't
and
ever
see.
remember cutting it out. All I remember was that we had to reduce it from Plainer Hill to the funeral home
Right,
because the cost had doubled.
right.
And that was
And
all
we're
that was being,
to the funeral home and coming back.
from Plainer Hill to the funeral home.
Right.
And then, it had to cut out from the funeral home to the old school. For now.
Yeah, we didn't, that wasn't in the grant to begin with, to the school.
Huh?
It was from Plainer Hill over, I think is what it was.
It was originally from Plainer Hill to the school.
Well, the whole thing was, yeah.
Yeah, that's what, and then,
Right.
and,
And then it got
but
cut
then,
back.
well, it got, because whenever it came time that we got it all approved, got the money approved, it wasn't enough money to do, because of the time frame,
I'll double check.
things had gone up. But it was my understanding that we're still going, but then I heard the other day from someone that was speaking to the crew, when this section is done, they're done and they're gone.
I think that's true.
Oh, man. I mean, a sidewalk from nowhere to nowhere is really
Well, we're-
stupid.
That's what
I'm
they said about the
sorry.
sidewalk on Plainer Hill too, and eventually it got completed.
Well, it was a continuous, that was pretty much a continuous project.
Well, yeah.
This
But,
is not going to be, apparently.
well, it will be completed.
Well, we may be dead, probably will be.
Well, speak for yourself.
I wish everybody a long life, of course, including myself.
I'll verify that, but I'm pretty sure that's the part that we had to cut out.
Where's Kyle Palmer's budget and all this?
It is planning. I think it's right after Jacobs. I think he's 0117. Yeah,
Just
page
about
13.
to ask about that.
Yeah.
It looks like a decrease of 10,000 in salaries and wages, but an increase in health insurance and then taxes, workers' comp, everything stayed the same. How is that possible?
There was a decrease in the salary because what was originally budgeted, Kylie, when did Kylie come?
Yeah.
Had part of Kylie's payouts, and Kylie was still working for us as a contract, and we didn't end up spending as much there as we thought we were going to. And so that includes Kyle's wages, his health insurance, what we pay for his health insurance, and then the payroll taxes associated with that salary and wage. And basically what we do is our payroll taxes, since he's on salary, they're pretty well fixed. So what we do is we just take that of what we've spent for the year and put it out over the entire year. Sometimes that has to do with deductions and stuff. Some people deduct more, some people deduct less. So it's, we just kind of readjust it. Some have, in the retirement, some people participate in it, some people don't. So that changes when you start at the beginning of the year. So that's kind of how those numbers got adjusted. But yes, that salary is less.
But shouldn't the payroll taxes and the workers' comp insurance be reflected as well?
No, the workman's comp insurance is based, we do that through Municipal League, and that's based upon the employee, so that pretty much stays the same. The payroll taxes, you know, they could have been figured wrong at the beginning of the year, and now they're figured, I mean, they could have been based on what his salary was at the beginning of the year. But yeah, those are, I mean, I can go back and check them again, but I'm pretty sure those are pretty accurate.
Do our streets and sewer workers get clothing allowances too?
They do get boots. I know that we buy them boots. I don't know, I mean, I think Simon was going to provide them with their shirts. I don't know about their pants. I don't know about
I think
that.
they get cold weather gear and
Yes, they
yeah,
do.
wet weather gear.
Yes.
Well, it's
And
just
they
that
do get them cleaned through Centos too.
they do.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes. But anything you want to prove there, I'm all for, so. I think they need more. So
I think they need more too.
I think they need a lot.
I think if they go out and get up to their knees in sewage, that they need to
Yeah.
be able to go take a shower, change clothes.
You know, Simon is very, he advocates for that quite a lot, advocates for his people quite a lot. We've tried to do things, providing them with coolers, ice, water, things like that that he can take out to them on the job site. Just, you know, anything we can kind of do to help them make it a little bit better.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just for my education, on page 3, what is a drug fund revenue?
So there are times when
department needs
they
to
go
arrest.
out and they arrest somebody who has drugs in their car or whatever, and then that becomes impounded and sold, and so those are the proceeds that they get from the sale of different things that are related to drug charges. Then we also have a expense account
Right.
that is,
I saw that too.
yeah. Let's look at it. Anyway, we have an expense account that Brian can put things in to expense out. Oh, it's in, I think it's down in his actual, yeah, it's down in his actual budget. To where if he is doing something to do with, you know, specifically related to drugs, he can use that money. We do, and I'll show you this next time when we go over our budget packets. We keep that money separate. It's in its own checking account, and it's very restricted on what he can use it for and can't use it for. But so we keep it separate. So.
I would assume test kits, things like that. If they catch somebody with drugs, they got to test it to see if it's not baking soda, but it's something.
And we don't really put a expense number on the budget because we have no idea of how much he's truly going to spend on it. You know, one year he may spend $500, and the next year he may spend $5,000. So just makes it tough.
I'm surprised the revenue is $5,000 for 2 years. That's kind of precise, the same amount.
Depends.
Well, it's
Depends.
5,000 is what we started out with, and we're just saying that we're going to keep it at 5,000.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, for this year.
It's been a lot more in the past.
Drug fund expense, he spent $2,000 this year, is how much he spent through July. And he had, and $2,856 is the revenue that he's had come in. So.
Thank you.
Is there anything major, Michael, or anything significant in through here that?
No, we've really gone over pretty much. I did cut the water department down to where it's a break even, just to kind of, you know, we've had a lot of repairs, a lot of equipment repairs. So we cut it down a little bit to where it's just pretty much at a break even. That was a change. Smitty, on Smitty's budget, we did have one big, pretty large increase on his expenses of, it's on page 30, Department 04, capital expenditures. He had been waiting on 2 new vans to come in that he was buying through the state of Arkansas. They actually came in, and we had not put them into the budget because he had no idea when they were going to be here. He really didn't think they were going to be here until 2024, but they actually came in, so he was able to get them. It's on a cost share. I think they pay 80%. We pay 20% of the van, and so it came in at like $40,000. We had to pay $20,000 a piece on the vans. So we increased his line item budget on his capital expenditures. So,
We got a couple of minutes left. Does Council, Mr.
I
McClung?
have a question on, be on page 19, on the Black Bass. Is that, the grant proceeds, did we receive that funding already?
Have we received the funds?
Yeah.
No, not yet.
Okay, that's 300,000.
That's a FEMA, not FEMA.
No,
That's,
how that breaks out is what the original intention was we were going to spend $750,000 on the project. $450,000 of it was going to come from a grant, and then 200 and the rest of it is coming from our COVID money that we have left.
250,000 roughly was COVID. We did receive a grant, but we received notification of the grant. We have not received it or gotten final verification of exactly how much it's going to be
For Black Bass.
for Black Bass. Correct.
And then the transfers in on the 250 on the roundabout, is that money so that is set aside in this budget? Is that what that is? I guess that's what I'm trying to find out. Or is this money actually defined in the budget and is reflected in our bottom line?
Yes, yes.
These are
It's money.
expenses.
What we're showing out of it is that it's money that we are going to be paying out of our pocket. Is what it's going to cost us. The 750 is what the cost of the project was. We were expecting 450 of a transfer in from the grant or whatever funding we got. And then on the roundabout, that was the 250,000, which was our initial, what we were costing. Yes, yeah. And where you'll see that is they're in that it's the 250 in, the 250 out, and that's cash that we already have on hand. So it's not expected in as a revenue. We don't see it coming in as a revenue.
Is there any other questions real quick? Otherwise, we'll probably need to pick this up either again or decide what we want to do later on. So,
I think we ought to look at it one more time before we ratify it. I sure do.
okay. We can go ahead and include that in our next budget workshop too. Maybe have a little earlier workshop to go along with it.
Whatever you work out, Mr. Mayor, is okay.
It would work for me.
All right. All right, thank you, Michael, very much.
Thank y'all.
Okay. I think we're almost right on time to begin our council meeting. So